You can be the most talented designer in the world and still fail in business. I've seen it happen. What separates designers who thrive from the ones who struggle isn't always about the work they produce. Hey there, I'm Mark Decote. And when I started my graphic design business, I quickly realized something that they don't really teach you in design school. And that's that your design skills are only half the battle. I spent 15 years working at a commercial printer before going out on my own. And I noticed that the designers who succeeded, the ones who continually brought in client projects for printing, weren't necessarily the ones with the best portfolios. They were the ones who mastered skills that had nothing to do with design. And I want to break down 5 of these skills today, because honestly, there's a difference between a designer who constantly stresses about money and survival and one who actually builds something sustainable. So let's jump right in with skill number 1. And I'm going to start with the one who matters the most, communication. Now, this may be hard to believe considering you're listening to me on this podcast and I've been doing this for over 10 years, not to mention the new YouTube channel I recently started at resourcefuldesigner.com/YouTube if you're interested. But I wasn't always a good communicator. I actually struggled with it. When I was working at the print shop, my managers actually had to push me to get better at this because I was just content to stay quiet and do my design work. But here's what I learned. Communication isn't optional if you want to run a business. Professional, clear communication saves time, it saves money, and it protects your relationship with every client you work with. Think about what happens when you send a vague email to a client. They may interpret it one way, even though you meant something completely different. Now you're going back and forth trying to clarify the message, wasting both of your time. Or worse yet, the project moves forward based on a misunderstanding, and suddenly you're delivering something that's not what they wanted. When you communicate clearly from the start, clients feel confident. They see you as a professional, and they see you as someone who understands their business, not just someone who pushes pixels around. And that matters because clients will pay more, they'll refer more, and they'll stay longer with someone they trust. And there's another layer to this too. Good communication lets you have the difficult conversations. It lets you push back on a bad idea professionally, and it lets you understand what a client really needs, even when they don't say it directly. So how do you get better at this, at communication? Well, the first thing I'd say is please don't rely on AI to write emails and other client communications for you. Yes, I know AI does a good job of writing clear, precise copy, but it can't convey emotions or feelings. Remember, you're trying to build relationships with your clients. And sending AI written copy just won't help because it's not actually coming from you. This is kind of like sending your middle school best friend to tell that cute girl that you really like her. Yes, she'll get the message, but she won't know your full commitment because the message isn't actually coming from you. Now, for written communications, I suggest you use tools like Grammarly. I've been using it for years. It helps to improve your writing. Now, it sounds simple, but most people don't actually check their email before hitting send. But using a tool such as Grammarly ensures that your communication is clear while still using your own voice. You can also use the Hemingway app. It forces you to write clearly and simply. It's been said that most people read at a 5th grade reading level. So if you're writing like you're trying to impress someone, you're probably losing them. Now, practice matters. Every email, every Slack message, every text to a client is a chance to practice being clear and professional. And for verbal communication, get feedback. Ask someone you trust to listen to how you talk to your clients. Record a sales call if you can get permission and listen back. Count how many times you say or like. I'm sure you'll be surprised. And some people do benefit from a speech coach. But honestly, most of us just need to be aware of our habits and intentionally work to fix them. The goal here isn't to sound robotic. It's to sound competent, confident, and someone worth paying. By the way, I'll have links to the tools that I mentioned in the show notes for this episode at resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 362. Now, the next skill that'll help determine your success as a freelancer is relationship building. Now, this one's harder for some people, especially if you're an introvert like me. But who you know, or more importantly, who knows you, generally matters in this business. I have seen designers land six-figure clients because they've had a conversation at a coffee shop 3 years before. I've also seen designers burn bridges so badly that entire networks avoided working with them. The most successful designers I know didn't just focus on finding new clients. They built genuine relationships with people they met, and they understand that every interaction matters. And it's not about being fake or manipulative. It's about recognizing that a colleague today may turn out to be a client tomorrow. A client you turned down on a project might actually refer you to someone perfect for your services next month. Your network, as they say, is your net worth. But here's the flip side. Bad word of mouth spreads faster than good word of mouth. One bad experience, and a designer loses opportunities they don't even know about. And burning bridges to save a few $100s on a project that was going badly, it's really not worth it. That's really short-term thinking, and it kills long-term success. If you want to be good at relationship building, you need to start small. Make genuine connections throughout your day. When you meet someone, actually listen to them and follow up. A simple thank you card after a meeting or a project goes a long way. Most people never do it, so it will stand out. Go to networking events and commit to talking to at least 5 people. Not superficial conversations, real conversations where you're actually interested in what they do. And then, and this is important, actually follow up. Send them an email a few days or weeks later. Stay in touch. Remember, people do business with people they like, and remember, they have to remember you for them to do business with you. We are in an industry full of competitors offering cheap work and free work. One of the best ways to stand out isn't with a better portfolio. It's by being someone people actually want to work with. Now, the third skill that'll determine your success as a freelancer is strategic thinking. And this skill literally transformed how I saw myself as a business owner. A lot of designers approach their work day to day. And by that, I mean they take projects as they come, they finish them, and then they move on to the next. And they just repeat that over and over. But strategic thinking is different. It's about envisioning where you want to be and planning backwards from there. When I started thinking strategically, I went from being a quote-unquote freelance graphic designer to being a strategic partner to my clients. Now, I still design things. I'm still a graphic designer. But now I take my clients through brand strategy processes first. I ask questions about their business goals, their values, their long-term vision, and then I design within that context. And that changed everything for me. It changed what I charged, it changed how clients perceived me, and it changed the impact of my work. You need to do the same thing with your own business. Most designers don't have a clear picture of where they're headed. They're not thinking about what their business looks like in 5 years. They're not planning 6 months ahead. You need to block off an hour a week, just one, that's all, and think about your business strategically. Where do you want to be? What does that require? What's one decision you need to make this month to move towards that vision? Start your day by envisioning, what do you want your business to look like 5 years from now? What does a day in that time look like? What kind of clients are you going to be working with? How much do you think you'll earn? Are you still freelancing solo, or are you building a team? Once you have that picture, work backwards. What needs to happen this year for you to get there? What needs to happen this quarter, this month? It's all relative. Now, I suggest you listen to podcasts about business and leadership. You can read books, get inspired by people who are further along than you. Strategic thinking isn't something that comes naturally to most creatives. We're comfortable in the present, in the execution. But learning to think about the future will set you apart from 90% of other designers out there. And now's the time to start. Now, skill number 4 that'll determine your success as a freelancer is time management. And here's a harsh truth that I actually learned the hard way, and that's how you manage your time determines how profitable you are. Unlike an employee who works a set number of hours and gets paid the same every week, you only make money when you're working on client projects. But you also have to run your business. You have to market, you have to handle finances, you have to take care of yourself. And most designers are terrible at managing these competing demands. I've known designers who are constantly busy, but are making less money than they should. Why? Because they're spending all their hours on client work, but they're doing it inefficiently. They're starting their day by checking their emails, their social media, trying to find stuff, and then jumping between projects. They're saying yes to everything that comes through their door. And that may sound like the right thing to do, but it's not. Your profitability depends on how well you manage your time. If you're working 8 to 12 hours a day and barely covering your expenses, the problem isn't that you need more clients. The problem is how you're managing your time. This is about more than just productivity. It's about self-discipline. It's about protecting your time so you have energy for your family, for your health, and your mental health. A burnt-out designer just can't create good work. A burnt-out designer doesn't communicate well. A burnt-out designer loses money. Now, a great thing you could do is plan your day the night before. Not a loose plan. Actually write down what you're going to do tomorrow in order. This is what I'm going to do in the morning. This is what I'm going to do late morning. This is what I'm going to do after lunch. This is what I'm going to do before I end my day. Now, do most of the important tasks first. And that's not email, that's not social media, and it's not the easy get it out quick stuff. Do the work that actually moves your business forward. Now, you can use time blocking if you wish. There's the Pomodoro technique, which is quite popular. That's where you take 25 to 60 minutes of focused work, and then you take a break, so you set a timer. But use whatever works for you, and then commit to it. But here's something most people miss, and that's that you need to protect admin time because it's as important as protecting client time. If you don't schedule time to handle your finances, send invoices, and follow up with leads, then those things don't happen. Then you're constantly behind. The designers I know who make the most money aren't necessarily the most talented, but they are the most disciplined with their time. They know what matters and they do it first. And that's why time management matters so much. Now, the fifth and final skill that I want to talk about, the one that determines your success as a freelancer, is budgeting. Now, I love talking about money because it's one of the biggest sources of anxiety for us freelancers. We either avoid thinking about it or we stress about it constantly, and neither approach works. Here's the thing. How you handle money in your personal life shows up directly in your business. I've seen businesses bring in tons of revenue and still fail because the owner didn't know how to manage money. You can have great clients, excellent work, and strong referrals, but if you don't know where your money is going, you'll never actually build any wealth. Budgeting is how you know which clients to work with and which ones to turn down. If you're not tracking profitability by client, you may be spending 80% of your time on a client that only generates 20% of your revenue. You need to know this stuff. Budgeting is also how you stay profitable. You need to know your actual costs, not just software subscriptions, but equipment, your time, insurance, taxes. Believe me, if you don't budget for taxes, you will panic when they're due. Budgeting is also how you pay yourself. And this is a big one. Most freelancers pay themselves whatever is left after expenses. But if there's nothing left, or if you're constantly dipping into your savings, you're not actually making money. And budgeting is how you make business decisions. Should you invest in new software? Should you hire someone? Should you raise your prices? You can't make these decisions if you don't know your numbers. Now, it's important that you separate your business and your personal bank accounts. Now, this sounds obvious, but I've seen so many freelancers that don't do it. And you can't actually see your business finances if your money is mixed together with your personal accounts. You can also use budgeting apps. There's so many out there to choose from. The tool itself doesn't matter as much as actually using it if you need to create a budget. And make sure your budget for your business is separate from your personal finance or your personal budget. For your business, you may budget $500 a month for software, maybe $200 for equipment, maybe $1,000 for professional development. Whatever it is, whatever you budget, set those amounts aside before you pay yourself. The goal should be to practice this in every area of your life. Your habits with money are just that, habits. If you're bad with money personally, you'll be bad with them in your business. But just like any habit, start small. Build that quote-unquote muscle. Keep doing it until it becomes habit, and apply this to both your business and your personal life. So those are the 5 skills: communication, relationship building, strategic thinking, time management, and budgeting. And these are what separate designers who are constantly stressed and broke from designers who are building real businesses. The good news? These are not talents. They're skills, and anyone can learn skills. Anyone can practice them. That means that you're not limited by how naturally gifted you are at design. You're limited only by how willing you are to grow. In an industry full of cheap designers, free work, and now AI-generated pieces, this is how you actually stand out. It's not just about your portfolio. It's about showing up as a professional, building real relationships, thinking long-term, protecting your time, and managing your money. If you do those things, clients will choose you. They'll pay more, they'll stay longer, and they will refer you to others. Now, if you found this helpful, please follow the podcast so you don't miss future episodes. And don't forget to check out my new YouTube channel, resourcefuldesigner.com/YouTube. Or if you're on YouTube, search for @resourcefuldesigner, which is different from @resourcefuldesigner podcast, which is just this podcast released as an audio on YouTube. So 2 separate channels there. And if you happen to know another designer who needs to hear this message that I shared with you today, please share this episode with them. So that's it for me. Until next time, thank you so much for listening. And as always, I want to remind you to stay creative.